Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&As, and I have a dozen or so questions for you guys. I'm going to split this up in two parts so I can get this up quicker. So let's get this party started. First question. What do you think about fenugreek for increasing T? Any truth to it or just bullshit? If true, how can we use it for the gains? Thanks. Alright, brother, fenugreek is an herb. For those who don't know, this is an herb that grows over in India and certain parts of the Middle East. It is used by a couple different cultures, not just one. I believe it's used in several different countries and cultures as a supposed aphrodisiac and testosterone booster and some other various things that people use it for. It has actually been studied quite a bit because its use is widespread enough that researchers have actually taken an interest in it. It does do some things, but not necessarily what most of you guys are going to be interested in. In fact, I might recommend men not take it at all things considered. It does seem to affect one sex hormone, and that is prolactin. So taking this herb has been found to affect prolactin in a way that breastfeeding females, it can up to double their milk production. We don't know if there's any other side effects with that they need to be aware of, but it does seem to increase milk production in women who are breastfeeding. Now, for men, it doesn't seem to do much useful. There's some different things they've looked at as far as maybe reducing DHT, but you guys who are lifting weights and not using any drugs, I'm going to recommend that you not mess with your DHT levels. It's not ideal for your training. As far as testosterone goes, though, there have been several studies done, and there's no consistent data showing any increase in testosterone. So unfortunately for you guys, you're not going to get a boost there. Now, what I will point out, though, with testosterone boosters, don't assume that even if something does later come out with a small boost in testosterone, that is automatically going to equal more gains in the gym. Because if you find an herb or a supplement that, say, boosts your testosterone production 10%, that is not going to equal actual gains in the gym. That is unlikely to give you any measurable increase in muscle mass. It's just not enough to make a real difference. So keep that in mind. But in the case of this one, I think they had one study that showed a minor increase in some of the people, and the other studies didn't show anything. So we've got to call this one no bueno. All right, next question. Hey Jason, a while ago you mentioned that a 3-plate deadlift and a 2-plate squat were all that one needed to reap the health benefits of training. What would you say are some good numbers to shoot for pressing and pulling movements, bench, chin-up, overhead press, etc., for strictly the health benefits? All right, great question. And when we're talking about the health benefits of lifting weights, these are the reasons that I tell people that everyone needs to lift weights. We're not talking about just getting your gains. We're talking about the stuff that's going to improve your quality of life through the rest of your life. We're talking about the positive impacts on blood sugar, bone density, just overall blood work and health markers. So we know that lifting weights reduces cancer rates. We know it reduces osteoporosis rates. We know it lowers rates of heart attacks, of strokes, and of diabetes. These are all medically proven benefits to lifting weights. So what am I going to say? Where are you going to max out most of your health benefits on some of these upper body stuff? Well, remember, the upper body stuff isn't going to do as much for you. It is the big lower body movements that are going to give you the health benefits because they work the most muscles. And so anything that's full body is going to give you the most health benefits. You're trying to just increase your body's overall insulin sensitivity and bone density and things. But you could use the same sort of idea. Someone can bench press 1 plate aside for reps, or they can do a few chin-ups. If they can do 3 or 4 bodyweight chin-ups and bench press 1 plate aside for several reps, their upper body is probably strong enough to glean all of those health benefits that we discussed. And probably anything beyond that is just for putting on exercise and strength. You're not gaining a lot of the health benefits at that point, really, but not to any measurable degree. You could gain more, but it becomes an issue of, are they factored in with the higher risk rate of pushing heavier weight for most of your life? I mean, we could argue these things all day long. No point in even trying to. It's a waste of time. But there are, of course, benefits to being stronger that always needs to be factored in, mainly just the ability to be more useful. Strength is useful to have in many different real-world situations, everything from day-to-day situations to survival type situations. So strength is not a bad thing. I don't want people to say that you should just stop at those weights and not lift any further. There's no benefit. There are benefits to having strength and muscle. Now, particularly the extra muscle from being stronger than that could lower the rates of things like diabetes slightly further, or cancer slightly further, but it's not going to be by a large magnitude. You've already got like 95% of the benefits you're going to get there by getting to that point. So you're talking very small amounts after that for the extra muscle mass. Because a lot of the health benefits that you get from lifting isn't just about the muscle mass that you put on, but what happens with the quality of the muscle mass you have as far as nutrient partitioning. And that's where a lot of the health benefits come from lifting weights that are going to help you live longer and avoid a lot of the chronic diseases that the rest of the population suffers from. So again, no need to worry that much about the purely upper body stuff, but if you wanted to keep them in ratio with those lower body lifts or full body movements, that's what I would shoot for. All right, next question. Do you think it's possible to gain a ton of muscle without progressing on all of your lifts if you're on a large amount of gear? Well, in this case, it's not a case of what I think or what you think or what anyone else thinks. There's hard data on this. We have research showing that guys who have been lifting weights for a year, who stop lifting weights completely, stop training, do no intense exercise, who are given medical grade testosterone by researchers and put in a lab, that they gain enormous amounts of muscle. In fact, they gain more muscle per month than guys who are lifting weights still as a control, even after you take them off of weights. So that's the simple reality of hefty doses of anabolics or testosterone. The studies prove that people can not only fail to progress, they can just stop lifting weights for 5 months straight. And again, I want that point to be clear. These are guys who, when we studied it, gained 15, 16, 18 pounds of muscle mass with DEXA scans involved to make sure it's not just water retention when they stop lifting weights and go on gear for the first time. They can just quit lifting weights completely and make gains. Is that fair? No. Is it something that everyone in the gear world wants to admit? No, but the truth is, once people go on drugs, and particularly hefty amounts of drugs, their drug stack is probably more important than their training for how much muscle they gain. That is just a simple reality, and anyone who is in denial of that fact hasn't looked at the data and the science, and you can absolutely disprove whatever preconceived notions they have. These substances have been medically proven to put large amounts of muscle mass on people who just completely stop lifting. Proven fact, not even subject to debate. All right, next question. Can too much stress slow down gains even if everything else is on point? Let's say someone gets enough sleep, has a good diet, and follows a good training program, but has a lot of stress due to work, relationships, etc. Would he have slower gains than if he was stress-free, or as long as sleep, diet, and training is on point, it won't make a significant difference? Okay, to answer this one, absolutely. Stress can absolutely, unequivocally reduce your progress in the gym. In fact, enough stress, even if you think everything is on point, can actually reverse some of your progress. If you get stressed enough, you can actually lose muscle mass and strength in the gym. And as far as the other stuff being on point, as far as sleep, nutrition, everything else, what you're actually going to find is that if you get stressed enough, it will interfere with your sleep. It will interfere sometimes with your diet, interfere with your healthy eating and eating a well-balanced diet. Some people won't eat enough. They'll lose weight, lose muscle even, because they won't eat when they're really stressed. And other people will tend to binge eat a lot more when they're really stressed, so they're going to gain more fat, maybe eat more junk food. So the problem there is that you can get hit with a double whammy. The stress and the extra cortisol and stress hormones, when you're going through a lot of stuff in your personal or professional life, can not only reduce or even in the worst case reverse some of your gains, which I know that really sucks, but that's life sometimes. It happens to all of us, man. All of us are going to go through something bad sooner or later to where this is going to be a problem. But so not only the direct impact, but the stress itself can actually mess with the other things. And once it starts messing with your sleep, and you're eating on top of the elevated stress levels, yeah, your progress in the gym is going to absolutely suffer, stagnate, and even reverse, because you can get hit with a double whammy because the stress will mess with those other things sometimes. So my advice to you, and this is what I do personally, some people are kind of like, you don't always progress in the gym. Sometimes you go through periods of really good progress, and then other times you seem to stagnate. And that's because I know from lifting over the years, I'm 39 years old. My birthday's coming up in December. One bit of wisdom I have gleaned over the years is that you have to focus on the long game and your long-term goals, and understand that sometimes you have to postpone the short-term goals because of other things going on in your life in order to continue to progress and to do everything that you need to do. And what I recommend, if you are really stressed, if your work is really stressing you, your relationship is stressful, you could be going through a divorce, you could be going through a breakup. I've done this, guys. I've gone through, since I started YouTube, I have gone through a separation and a divorce, have I not? I lost muscle mass during that. So the thing that I've learned, though, is that you want to continue to train because the training itself can reduce stress. So you don't want to quit training, but what I recommend to most guys, stop progressing. If you're really stressed with something in your personal life, training too hard and trying to push that limit is going to make the stress worse. It's going to make it unmanageable sometimes, and your body isn't going to recover because you're already being hit with all the stress hormones, and you're not in an ideal place to recover from progression. So you're going to be better in the long term if you go ahead and just coast. Don't try to increase the weight, don't try to increase the workload, maybe even reduce the workload slightly, and just come in and get your workouts done so that you feel better and you can relieve some stress, and you can worry about making progress again once your life is back in order. And that way you're not going to end up overtraining, you're not going to end up hurting yourself, and you're not going to end up running yourself into the ground, which should be your concerns, because stress is a killer. That's the thing that people need to remember. Stress isn't a minor thing. We used to think, oh, stress is just stress, but we've known for over 20 years now, based on the research, stress will kill you. Stress will put you in the grave early. So it's important that you maintain your training, though, in order to mitigate that stress, because for most of us who lift, we use it as a stress relieving tool, and you don't want to lose that. But you also don't want to try to progress when you're going through that, because it's just going to end up burying you if you can't recover from it. All right, next question. The book Practical Programming for Strength Training discusses that the stress recovery adaptation period for intermediate and advanced lifters takes more time than it does for a novice. Does this mean adding accessory exercises for muscle mass to a strength program like the Texas method or Starr method should be more split and not full body, since progressive overload can only be achieved in weekly cycles? Or can metabolic fatigue still be achieved each workout 3 times a week? No, metabolic fatigue can absolutely be increased 3 times a week just through the training itself, so that's not the problem. Don't worry about that. You're going to be able to achieve that with the workloads in general. Now, you'll find on some of those intermediate and advanced methods, they don't have you lifting really heavy all 3 days. You're going to find, like when you look at Bill Starr's program, you actually definitely have a light day in there. So that already covers that. As far as the peripheral nervous system and the recovery of all of that, that's already built into the program, because you're really only lifting heavy or 2 out of your 3 days for the most part on a lot of these more advanced programs. So you're good to go there already. You don't need to worry about that aspect. And by training 3 days a week, you are still getting the metabolic fatigue, and you're also getting motor unit learning. Meaning, if you come in and you say bench press, if you bench press 3 days a week and one of them is a lot lighter than the others, you're still training the motor patterns. You're still training the movement of the barbell. Even though it's a lighter weight, not light enough for you to feel like you're stimulating new growth, you are still stimulating motor patterns and technique. Just like throwing a baseball every single day is going to make you better at throwing a baseball. It's not because you get stronger at it always. It's because you're practicing the movement. And the same can be said for a lot of these other lifts. You aren't lifting hard enough to just get stronger through the nervous system and recruiting more motor units, but you are inducing a little metabolic fatigue that you might grow from. You're also training the motor patterns, and that's the important thing to remember there also with higher frequency training. It's not just about the individual growth. It's about training the movement so that you stay good at them and you continue to get better at doing that actual movement and exercise, because practice makes perfect. All right, next question. I work a 12-hour day and get an average of 6 hours sleep a night. Your novice 5x5 is pretty tough to recover from. What modifications do you recommend? Would a push-pull split be less taxing? Alright, this is always going to be a problem with the novice 5x5. I've always said that people need to be healthy and have a really good lifestyle in order to make the program work. Someone who's working 12-hour days and sleeping 6 hours a night is not in an ideal recovery situation. So what I used to recommend in the past is that people who struggle with recovery from it due to different factors like that should run the cutting version. However, what I changed later, I realized that a lot of people need a completely different program due to that. So people whose lifestyle doesn't facilitate full recovery of the novice 5x5, I actually wrote a program called my linear hypertrophy program. You can find it in the programs playlist. And for you with a setup like that with your sleep and work schedule, I'm going to recommend that you run the linear hypertrophy program and just go ahead and abandon my 5x5. Things are going to go a lot better for you if you do that. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.